Hello guys, welcome back to this series. In today's video, we are diving into the core concept of React, which is actually props. Remember we mentioned props in our last video, and we say props helps us to have a dynamic component. So if you ever wondered how to pass data from one component to another, just like we explained in our last video, this particular video is for you. By the end of this video, you will know how to use props effectively, set default values, and even validate them. So let's get started how to use props. But first of all, what is props, or what are props? So here we say props, short for properties, allows us to pass data from a parent component to a child component. They make our component reusable and dynamic. Think of props like arguments you pass in a function. So this is the general definition of props. They are basically properties. Right, we talked about in our previous video how components are reusable and components are dynamic. This is what props will do for us, right? So we're jumping into our code editor. We're going to see how to pass props, how to pass data in our components to make it more dynamic. So here we are in our previous application, and we are in the greet.jsx, right? So we're going to modify this to have just one greeting, and we're going to see how to pass data between these properties, or between these components, right? I'm going to clean all of this, and I'm going to create a new component called greeting, and I'm going to make this more dynamic, and I'm going to say function greeting, and I'm going to return hello. I'm going to return a paragraph element saying hello, my name is Paul. Right, my name is Paul. Yeah, if I do this, and I'm going to say export default, of course I'm going to export default function, right? So I'm going to import this function in our JSX, right? I'm going to delete all of this we have here, and I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to import our greeting component. Right, so go back to run our application. We're going to see hello, my name is Paul, right? So what do we want to achieve? We want to achieve a more dynamic component. What do we mean by that? We want to be able to change this name to something else. Maybe someone else wants to greet, which is not Paul. So we're going to do that. If we duplicate this, we're going to have hello Paul, but I want the first greeting to be hello, my name is Paul, the second greeting to be hello, my name is John, and the third greeting should be hello, my name is Johnson, or something, right? So I'm going to pass these values as prop in our component. How do we do that? And if we go back to our greeting, we're going to see we talked about props, and props are just properties. Remember we said props are object properties passed to a component, and we'll pass that in a parentheses. So here we have the function name, the function keyword, the function name, and we have the parentheses which accepts our props. Here I'm going to say name. So this name is going to be the name of whoever is greeting. And if you watched our video where we're talking about JSX and rendering in React.js, we talked about rendering variables, JavaScript variables in JSX, and we said we wrap variables in curly braces. So how do we implement that here? We're going to say name. So this is going to be hello, my name is name. So whatever name we pass in as argument to this component will be received as property here, and we are going to use that name, right? So in our greeting component, we are going to pass in a property called name, right? Passing a property called name. So this is how to pass props. Props are basically attributes to elements. Props are attributes. They come in name and value, or you can say they come in key value pairs. So here I'm having an attribute called name, right? Let's just take our mind back to that. We're having an attribute called name, and the value is Paul. The second attribute, the value is John. The third name is Jane, right? If I save this and I go back to my editor, and the third name is Jane, right? So I'm going to save this, and we're going to see how this is done in our web page. But before we do that, let's go back to our application, right? Let's go back to our greet.jsx component and see how we can log out this name and see what we have. So if I go back here to say console.log name, right? I go back to say console.log name. So we want to see because we say properties are objects passed as props, as attributes. We want to see what the object looks like. So if I go back to my code editor, of Of course, nothing is there because we commented out our JSX. So if I inspect my web page and I go to my console, you're going to see, if I reload this, we have objects. We have objects name, Jane, right? We have for Paul, we have for Jane, and we have for John, and we have for Jane. So it means that we have the name is returning as an object, and in the object we have a property called name. So if we say console.log name.name, right, this is going to return all the names. So that means in our JSX, we won't just return this, because you cannot return an object in your JSX. Rather, we're going to return the property of the object, which is name, as the only property of the object. If we try to do this, we're going to see our objects, our components returned our names dynamically. We have hello, my name is Paul, hello, my name is Jane, hello, my name is John, as the case may be, because we have here the first component is receiving a property called name, and the value is Paul. Same as the second, the value is John. The third, the value is Jane. So we're going to look at something now, something called destructuring. We're going to see how to destructure our props so we don't write name.name. Name.name does not look fine, so we're going to make it look nicer, and we're going to call that, we're going to look at how to destructure our props. I'm going to add a comment, say destructure the name props, right? So I'm going to see how we can destructure the name. How do we do that? We don't just accept our name as this. We're going to accept our name as destructured objects. So we'll do that by saying name, right? If we do that, let me demonstrate that. If we do that and I come back to say console.log name, right, this is going to give us something different. If I go back to inspect, we're going to see that it returned the name. Unlike what we had before, which were objects, now I've destructured the object and it's returning only the values of the property. So this is now the property of the object name. If you change this to age, you're going to have an error, because nothing returned, because the object itself does not have a property called age. It only has a property called name. That is why we have this. So this is what we call destructuring, and of course we can just pass this directly without saying name.name, because it's already destructured. Now we have exactly what we had before, but then in a cleaner way of doing it. So this is what we call destructuring in JavaScript or in React. So what if you want to pass multiple pieces of information? Let's say you want to send both name and age as prop to our component. How do you do that? So we're going to update our code here. What we have, we're going to say maybe we want to pass the name of Paul, the age of Paul, the age of John, of course, and the age of Jane. We also want to pass their gender. How do we do that? So first of all, let's go back to our app.jsx. We said we can have many properties. Remember, we said properties are just like attributes. We can have age property. So let's say Paul is 18. Paul is 18. Let's say John is 20, and let's say Jane is 22, right? If I save this, nothing happens. Our app remains the way they are, and I come back here to say, their gender, right? Come back here to say their gender. Paul is male. John is male. Of course, Jane is female. Nothing still changed. But if I go back to our grid.jsx, which is actually our component file, and I say this grid.jsx is accepting both name, age, and gender, right? And if I come back here to make modifications in our JSX, I'm saying, hello, my name is Jane, right? Hello, my name is Jane. I am 8 years old, and I am male, or I am female, right? So these are now dynamic variables, the dynamic data. This data can change. So if I save this, we're going to have, hello, my name is Paul. I am 18 years old, and I am male. Hello, my name is Jane. I am 20 years old, and I am male. Hello, my name is Jane, John, Jane, whatever, and I am female. So this is just demonstrating how to pass multiple properties in our components. Here we have the property, the name property, the age property, and the gender property. And yeah, before we wrap up this video, we're going to talk about what's called default property. We're going to talk about what's called default property. going to talk about what's called default property. So the best way to define the default, to explain the default property, let's just assume the parent refused to pass this property. So the parent refused to pass the age property or the gender property. What do we fall back to? We can fall back to the default values of this property. And how do we do that? We do that by saying age is here. From here, we're going to pass the default age. So if you did not pass your age, we're going to give you a default age. We're going to say age is equal to, we're going to say age is equal to 21, right? So if you did not pass your age, we're giving you a default value of 21. If we save this and maybe mistakenly Paul did not pass the age, we're going to go back to this and see what we have. Now we have, hello, my name is Paul and I am 21. See, Paul does not have age property, but it's now feeding from our default property value. The same thing will go to Jane. If I take out the age of John and I save, you're going to see, hello, my name is John and I am 21, because we define here that our default age value is 21. So this 21 will be assigned to any property that did not call or did not specify their age props, any component that did not specify their age property. So far we've learned how to create components and how to pass in props as components. We also learned how to pass in multiple props. We've learned how to create default value for our props. Now let's look at the common mistakes and best practice when we're dealing with props. So one of the mistakes people make in using props is trying to modify the value of props in a child component. What do we mean? This is a prop. We cannot come here to say name, or for example, we cannot come here to say, let me just create a new component. We cannot come here to say function greeting2, right? And then here we have props. Let's say we have props here, and here we're just going to have hello. I'm saying props.name. Right, we can't just come here to modify the value of our prop in our child component. How do we mean? We can't say props.name equal to John. Right, we can't do this. We can only do this if you are talking about state, which will be in our next video. Don't always do this. These are common mistakes people use in using props. Right, the best thing to do is to keep your props immutable. Don't change the value of your prop in your child component. Don't change the value of your prop in your child component. The value of your prop should remain the way they are, except you're having a default value for your prop. So guys, that's everything you need to know about React props. Now you know how to pass data from a parent to a child component, destructure props and set values, of course default values, and even see how you can avoid changing the values of prop in a child component. So what do we mean? We mean always keep your prop immutable. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like, subscribe and hit the notification bar so you don't miss on our next tutorial. Drop a comment below if you have any question. See you guys in the next video.